Hey, what's up, y'all? Snake Almighty, and I'm here with another ghetto reaction. Right now, we about to react to a video that moviebot just dropped recently, titled "New Details Revealed for Power Book 4 Force Season 3, the finale." Let's see if he's just going to be talking about the finale, or there's going to be different little intricate things that he'll be talking about in regards to Power Book 4 Force Season 3. Without further ado, let's get to it.
I'll be back.
Yeah, I am. Now, Fall Season 3 is on its way. They've given us a few exclusive first look pictures, they've given us a teaser, they've also given us the release date after a very long time. But now they've also given us our first real exclusive quotes and what to expect from the showrunner Gary Lennon and also Joseph Sikora. They did an interview with Entertainment Weekly where they went into a few topics in and around what we can expect for the final season of Force. And they've also teased that we are in for a wild ride, which I have no doubt that we are. Going by season 1, we all know that it didn't quite feel like a power show. It didn't feel like a Tommy show. With Gary Lennon back on board for season 2, things started to look a lot better in my personal opinion.
Yes, I totally disagree with anyone who says that Power Book 4 Force is a bad show. It's not the best, but you comparing this show to Raising Canaan, which I feel like is better than OG Power and then OG Power and Power Book 2 Ghosts. So, it's not necessarily a fair comparison. I mean, season 1 was all over the place, but it was still a good beginning. And then season 2 was like a reboot of season 1, where they made things a little bit more clear and less convoluted. I feel like for season 3 is going to be fire. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section.
And season 3 will hopefully just continue on from where they left off in season 2. I think it was quite hard to undo some of the things that was given to us in season 1, but hopefully when they transition into Power Legacy after Fall Season 3, they're given a complete clean slate. They're able to start fresh. They're able to do Tommy and Tariq justice and give Tommy Egan a proper sending off. Because I do think that will be a show which will be the end of Tommy Egan. Topic for a different day. I'm going to come to that one pretty soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. In the rest of this breakdown, we're going to run through all of these quotes.
Wait, what he said?
Power Legacy after Fall Season 3. They're given a complete clean slate. They're able to start fresh. They're able to do Tommy and Tariq justice and give Tommy Egan a proper sending off. Because I do think that will be a show which will be the end of Tommy Egan. Topic for a different day. I'm going to come to
a show that will be the end for Tommy Egan. Is he suggesting that Tommy's going to die? If so, I also believe that Tommy's going to die soon, but then he's talking about Power Legacy, which is supposed to have Tommy and Tariq in it. I think he's suggesting that Tommy Egan as Tommy Egan is going to be finished. And Tommy is probably going to have to go by another alias or something like that. Let's keep going.
That one pretty soon, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. In the rest of this breakdown, we're going to run through all of these quotes from Gary Lennon and Joseph Sikora and break down some clues around these plot storylines for all things Power Book 4 Force Season 3. Now, on Tommy's mindset going into Season 3, it's a mindset of him against everybody in Chicago. So this is what he's had to say on his final mission in Chicago. He's at a place of incredible revenge. Going into Season 3, Tommy's biggest ally is himself. In his mind, it would have been him and Maria going into the sunset. But as of right now, Tommy is betting on himself. Tommy has always had this ability to decipher street moves, to be both the brains and the brawn. It's just that Ghost took care of one thing and Tommy took care of the other. So, Tommy going into Season 3 with the mindset that his biggest ally is himself. I'm going to come to some more quotes to kind of back this when we get talking about the relationship between him.
Which is the fucking truth. Your biggest ally is yourself. None of your real family there. You in Chicago. Yeah. I believe that Season 3, we're going to see Tommy execute plans more strategically than he's ever done. And we're really going to lean more into the fact that Tommy has the mental capabilities to execute strategies on a level that James St. Patrick did.
Diamond and also Jernard as well. But going into the final season full force, he's in revenge mode. He's betting on himself after losing a lot of allies, and loyal people that he had by his side, such as Liliana. If she was still around, that's someone who would have definitely been a very important ally.
Yup.
Tommy would have been able to trust Liliana, but there aren't many people left that he can trust in Chicago apart from himself.
Which is why he ended up calling Tariq. He realized that Tariq is the only person he could trust, even if he couldn't 100% trust Tariq. He's the person who Tariq could trust to a certain extent. Matter of fact, wholeheartedly, because Tommy went to kill his mom and decided not to. So he knows that Tariq owes him, and Tariq will be loyal.
We all know he struck up a partnership with Diamond, but again, we have started to see a few cracks appear in that relationship as well. Again, I will come to some quotes that hint Diamond may be one to watch when it comes to turning on Tommy in Season 3. Now, he also mentioned his ability to be both the brains and the muscle. Back in Power, Ghost was mainly the brains and Tommy was mainly the muscle, although we did see moments where Tommy did step up, but mostly it was Ghost making the plans and making the strategic moves. In Force throughout Seasons 1 and 2, we've seen Tommy stepping up into the kind of full package, and that's because there's been no Ghost to lean on. As I mentioned before, he doesn't have too many allies that he can trust, so he's been doing a lot of things solo and making a lot of key decisions on his own. Liliana was a great sidekick in Season 1, because at times, she corrected Tommy when he was swaying down the wrong path, and as a leader, you still kind of need that. You still need someone else to give you a different perspective.
Terrible idea to kill off Liliana. Terrible idea. Terrible idea. For one, she's fine as hell. Super fine, right? The scar makes it even more sexy for some reason. But also, she would have been the perfect number 2 for Tommy, man. But I guess they had to move her out of the way to focus more emphasis on Diamond being his number 2.
That sometimes you can't see. That's why Ghost and Tommy used to work very well together back in Power. But he's betting on himself, as he should. But going into Season 3, there's going to be a lot of problems that he's going to have to deal with. So, let's talk about the situation with Diamond and Jernard.
Alright, Diamond and Junard, let's go. Junkie Jernard, Demon Diamond.
Now, this is what Joseph Sikora had to say on his and Diamond's relationship. Tommy's got a lot of love for Diamond and a lot of animosity for Jernard. But at the same time, he's wise enough to respect the threat that is Jernard and see that Diamond's loyalties may not strictly lie with Tommy.
Yo, duh, right?
So I think they've already given us a hint where they're going to take Tommy and Diamond's relationship, which began way back in Season 2 anyway. For those who were following my breakdowns and were watching Season...
He gonna be like, I already see what moviebot about to say. He's gonna be like, listen, man. Tommy obviously knows that they're brothers. He knows that even though whatever was happening between him as Tommy Egan, dealing with his brother Ghost, that no matter what, they always found a reason to come back together. So he gotta expect that from Diamond and Jernard too. It's a threat.
Too very closely. You could tell there was a very big difference in how Tommy wanted to run things and how Diamond wanted to run things. Tommy went into Ghost mode in the sense where he started to make a lot of decisions by himself. That's what Ghost used to do with Tommy back in Power. Diamond also reunited with Jernard after the death of their pops. It brought them a lot closer together, as death sometimes does in families. And he wasn't against the idea of basically handing D-Mac over to King Kilo, who only happens to be Tommy's nephew. It also has to be said, Tommy also knows how it is to have a brother. He knows brothers can fall out. He knows they can fight.
See?
Just like we saw between him and
See?
Ghost. But at the end of the day, they'll always be brothers.
Yup.
And Tommy's going to be very wary of that when it comes to Diamond's loyalty. I do think there's going to be moments where Tommy's going to be looking on and thinking, can I really trust Diamond? I know I can't trust Jernard, but where does Diamond's loyalties lie? I mean...
And Tommy's going to get to a point where he's going to squash things with Jernard. There will be a situation that's going to bring Tommy, Jernard, and Diamond together. Tommy knows it's advantageous for him to get along with Jernard, because when Jernard is a factor, Diamond will always be a factor.
We all know Tommy's not stupid. He's going to know when push comes to shove. Diamond will most likely pick Jernard. Post Season 2, Gary Lennon even teased one of the key themes going into Season 3 is how blood is thicker than water. Even though blood doesn't necessarily make you family, we should all know that based on what's happened in the Power universe. In this instance, what they're teasing with one of the key themes, with what Joseph Sikora said about him having to be very wary about Diamond, adding to the fact with what we've seen between them in season 2. I do think Tommy does need to have his head on a swivel and just be very cautious of what Diamond does. Tommy definitely knows that he needs to keep one eye on Jernard. That's a given. He knows that he can't trust him. But with Diamond, he just needs to be very careful and watch his back. Now, moving on from Diamond and Jernard, who Tommy needs to be very wary of, Shanti Showstopper Page is another character whose loyalty is murky at best.
She is dangerous. I predict she dies. And I predict Jernard is going to choose Diamond over her, which is going to make her a problem.
That was a line used by Entertainment Weekly, and that's the line I think sums it up best when it comes to Shanti. The moves that she put into motion, her role in Maria's abduction, her playing Claudia, and now getting closer to Tommy Egan. We know what she's about and what she wants. We know what her end goal is.
I believe Tommy already has his eye on her, though.
So, this is what Gary Lennon had to say on this particular topic. Ultimately, she's there to service herself, and so she thinks people in general are disposable. The nice thing about Shanti is she's quite smart, so when one person makes a move, she may have a counter move to make that will make it just as brutal and surprising. Tommy respects the game that Shanti is able to hold things down and keep a criminal enterprise. He likes being around that part of the game, but I don't think that Shanti fills the Liliana void in his life by any stretch. Now, on this particular quote, my thoughts are especially
Tommy gonna see that bitch coming.
After watching season 2, Shanti is definitely...
Shanti is seeming like, depending on how things go, Shanti seems like the Dre of Force. Maybe I'll make a video on that.
Definitely a wild card. You don't know what you're going to get from her. One moment she's working with Claudia and the next minute she's flipping. Gary Lennon's quotes where he mentioned when one person makes a move, she may have a counter move to make that could be brutal and surprising. Sounds very typical of a boxer, and that's what she is. See what moves your opponent makes. Slip, jab, continue probing. Wait for that moment where you can land a knockout blow. That's what she did in season 2 when they just sat on the picture of Tommy and Maria. She plays the game like it's a boxing fight. She's very calculated in her approach. Smart, strategic, and that's why Tommy actually respects that kind of side to Shanti. But I don't think he actually fully trusts her. There is no doubt in my mind Tommy's going to keep a very close eye on Shanti, because you can guarantee one thing with a character like her, she is going to flip. She's a wild card. We know what her end goal is, which is to take the CBI. Let Tommy and Diamond fatten their organization up, let them build it up, and when it's ready, kill them both and take over. The problem with this is she's playing a very dangerous game, not just when it comes to Tommy, but also when it comes to Jernard and Diamond. I went through the theme of blood being thicker than water earlier on, and how Tommy may have a huge battle to keep Diamond on side when it comes to Jernard. Well, same thing can actually be said when it comes to Shanti, when push comes to shove. Even though Shanti and Jernard are in a relationship, will Jernard choose Shanti over Diamond? I personally don't think so. And the flip of the script, the wildcard moment, in my particular opinion,
not gonna happen. Not gonna choose no chick over his brother. Not gonna happen.
Will be Jernard flipping the script on Shanti when she least expects it.
Definitely gonna happen. But the question is, could Shanti see it coming though? Since we're talking about counter moves. Shanti is smart enough to see it coming.
But let's move on to what Gary Lennon teased about Vic Flynn. Now on Vic Flynn, a lot of us thought that he'd meet his end towards the end of season 2, but this is what Gary Lennon had to say on keeping Vic around. The answer to the question of what Tommy's planning for Vic is a great reveal. We wanted to really portray Tommy as getting smarter with his moves, as he moves up in the criminal world, and where he has some new tricks up his sleeve. So with Vic.
Well, with that being said, then we already know that Tommy keeping Vic alive, even though they know he's a rat, will prove to be beneficial. Tommy will be proven as being right for making that decision. And it will be Diamond, and I think Jernard knows too, that Vic is a rat. They're going to be like, okay, I get why you made the decision that you made.
This one definitely is a bit of a controversial topic. A lot of us know how Tommy feels about snitches in the world of power. You go back to characters like Maria Suarez, Joe Proctor, and who remembers what Tommy did to Ruiz? Tommy never had an issue with pulling the trigger back in OG Power or giving someone the stabby stab to running them over. If you were a snitch, you just simply had to go. But with Vic Flynn, he had different ideas compared to Diamond. And that's one of the key issues between them, which will no doubt continue into the early parts of season 3. Diamond wanted to get rid of Vic for being a snitch, but Tommy wanted to use him. And I think that's the route that Gary Lennon and the writers have gone down, because they want to show Tommy is more than just brute force and killing snitches. He's also got the know-how and smarts to say, okay, I know I've got to get rid of this person for being a snitch, but how can I use him first? What can I use Vic Flynn for? And that's the real question. Gary Lennon says he's got a great reveal, and I think it's going to be along the lines of maybe using Vic to do his dirty work, using Vic to sway law enforcement in the way Tommy wants, using Vic Flynn because he's dispensable. And that's the bottom line when it comes to Vic. They started off as characters who never really saw eye to eye. They were forced to work together by Walter Flynn. Tommy then took him under his wing, where he grew a bit of a soft spot for Vic, because he could definitely see a lot of himself in Vic.
Definitely had a soft spot for Vic.
Being madly in love with Gloria, losing a loved one like Tommy did, killing his father exactly like Tommy did back in Power. They definitely have a lot in common, but the game's the game, and a snitch is a snitch. Tommy definitely won't forget that, unless, and it is a very big if, unless Vic manages to save Tommy somehow from law enforcement or a rival crew, or from a near-death situation.
Yeah, then he might give him the opportunity to like run away and start a new life. Shit like that. But I predict that Claudia and the rest of the Italians, the rest of the Irish people, they're not done with it. I think ultimately Claudia would be responsible for Vic's death.
Tommy then thinks,
Claudia is not dead.
You know what, fair play kid, you've kind of redeemed yourself. I do sense there are going to be a lot of twists and turns with this one. And honestly, at this moment in time, I genuinely can't call it. They definitely have a lot of surprises up their sleeve before the end. But let's move on and talk about Tommy's family. Now, towards the end of season 2, we all know Tommy dropped D-Mac off to Grey Shores, but he wasn't quite honest with Kate. That pushed her to taking drugs again after she put a lot of effort into change. She ended up in hospital, and it caused a bit of tension between him and JP. So this is what Joseph Sikora had to say on his relationship with his family. They couldn't be further apart. And Gary Lennon also mentioned that it's his relationship with Kate that would be the most hardest to repair. Now, with the theme being blood thicker than water, we've spoken about how it's going to apply to the relationship between Jernard and Diamond. We know how ruthless he can be. But we can't deny the fact that Tommy is very big on love and he's very big on family. The fact that he's had a second chance with his family in Chicago after what happened in New York with the St. Patrick's, I do think he's going to do everything he can to make things right, make their relationship right, and get back on the...
He definitely will. The reconciliation between JP and Tommy, 2 episodes. Before episode 3, they will have worked that out. That's coming.
Right track with Kate. It's going to be
a very real episode too. A very real conversation.
Very tough because we know what they've been through. We've all seen how their relationship was back in Power. A relationship that did look like it was back on the mend in For Season 2. Can they get to it after what's happened towards the end? I personally think they can. I agree with Gary Lennon in the sense it's going to be a very tough road. It's going to be the toughest relationship to rebuild out of Kate, JP and D-Mac. But I don't think it's actually impossible. I mean, in the early parts of For Season 2, Kate did show that she was willing to change, although D-Mac was the one who gave her that sense of purpose. But she did show she was willing to change, listen, talk, and make an effort that she probably didn't do before. I think we're going to get a lot of insight into how she was a shitty mother back in Power Origins. That's something we're definitely going to see with how the young Tommy was brought up. But even though it is going to be the hardest relationship to mend, I don't think it's impossible. At least I'd like to think it isn't, because I do want to see Tommy make things right with his family. With JP and D-Mac, I mean, this one is another tricky one. It's tricky because D-Mac is someone who just simply can't be controlled. JP is his pops. He wants to make the right calls and make the right decisions for his son. But we all know the ongoing tension between him and D-Mac. He even threatened to kill JP towards the end of For Season 2. A path I hope they
gonna work that out too.
Really don't go down. I don't want to see another family and father and son killing in Power.
D-Mac's not gonna kill JP. One of these people will die for the other. That's what I'm predicting.
Or any of that kind of storyline. I think a lot of you will probably agree that it's been quite overused in the Power universe. There's also Tommy who's trying to keep D-Mac on the right path, and his ideology did somewhat clash with Jake.
That's over with. D-Mac is a psychopath like Tommy. Best thing Tommy can do is just teach him how to move.
Please, they both definitely want what's best for D-Mac, especially Tommy, and that's because he knows how to return that in New York. And that's something he wants to avoid with D-Mac. but him and JP did clash over D-Mac a couple of times. Can they save him from going down the path that he's gonna eventually go down? I personally don't think so. I think it's way too late. He's someone who grew up in the streets. He doesn't know anything other than the streets, and he's gonna do it with or without Uncle Tommy's help. I mean, it is what it is. In my opinion, what Tommy's probably gonna have to do is take him under his wing, because that's the only way he's gonna be able to keep him close, and also keep him safe, as crazy as it is to say. Very similar to the way Tasha once told Tariq, if he's gonna start hustling, he's gonna have to do it her way, under her watch. But this family dynamic is gonna be very interesting to see how it all unfolds. What happens with Kate? What happens with Tommy and JP? Especially when you factor in D-Mac. It definitely is very complex. And I'm really not sure how they end this particular storyline come the end.
Yeah.
Especially with them transitioning into Power Legacy afterwards. I mean, does D-Mac join Tommy and Tariq in Power Legacy? Where does Tommy end up with a relationship with his family come the end? And that also includes Maria Garcia.
Uh-huh. Romance on the edge.
Now on Maria, Gary Leonard mentioned,
Super fine.
the question really is, will she or won't she be able to handle herself in this world? And then we had Joseph Sikora mentioning, it's not only that something bad happened to Maria, but in Tommy's mind, it's that Miguel has her, and Tommy doesn't truly know what he's capable of. This guy is a psychopath. He also touched on the difference and similarities that Tommy didn't have.
I don't believe the whole Miguel is a psychopath thing yet. He hasn't done enough. Dangerous, yes. Psychopath, no.
With Holly and
No. I don't believe that diabetic man is a psychopath.
also Lakeisha. And we also the hallucination in
He's a diabetic. He can't do too much.
season 2. It was a very big moment. So he continued to mention, in some ways, Maria is a culmination of those two major relationships. She's both of those two things. So that's what they have to say on his and Maria's relationship. And this topic is not going to be one that I'm going to dive too deep into, because it is something I've done a deep dive on a month or so ago. I spoke about Tommy and Maria's relationship, the influence of Miguel, and also a theory where I believe Maria could actually be pregnant. For those who remember my breakdowns just before Raising Cain in season 4, there was a specific teaser they dropped around Rock, specifically a conversation between her and Jude, and I threw the theory out there because I did think there was a high chance Rock could actually have been pregnant. Well, the signs and clues are also there with Maria. I said it during season 2 and I've been saying it ever since. You just can't simply ignore the signs. And I do think it'd make things a little...
Oh man, you're right. The signs are there. Maria might be pregnant. And she would find out while taking a test. Wow, at wherever she's at, that Miguel got her at.
A little more complex for Tommy Egan, coming towards the end of his journey in Chicago. How would he handle this situation if Maria was pregnant? I'm going to leave the link to that particular breakdown down below in the description section for those who want a deeper dive into this particular...
He'd do her like he did D-Mac. He want to send her away somewhere.
topic. Now, how it all ends, Gary Leonard
You're gonna
said
send her to
it's
Amish
a great
town.
ride. It's a wild ride. Joseph Sikora also mentioned Gary was able to do that for the city of Chicago. So I think the city is going to be very happy, ecstatic with season 3. Our season will be blessed by the city of Chicago, so it will also be accepted by the rest of the world. Now they haven't given too much away in terms of the end, and I do think we all know why. They had plenty of time to plan ahead. Get the storyline written where they not only complete this chapter of Tommy Egan, but also set up the new one, Power Legacy. But that's where I'm going to end things for this one. Because
Alright, y'all, that was moviebot. New details revealed. Power Book Full Force Season 3 finale. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Credit goes to moviebot for the audio that I use in this video. Peace.
Can't teach that shit, nigga. Come on. That's God get that. That's touch my ink. That's on the dome, nigga.